Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Geraldo Lemos Neto, and I'm here with Marco Gandra from Portal Saber Spiritismo in Belo Horizonte, Brazil. We are transmitting the program to Know Spiritism number 120, and welcome everyone who wants to study with us Life Beyond. We are studying a series of programs that concerns life in the spiritual realm. Tonight, we are bringing you this beautiful instruction by the Spirit of Emmanuel through the hands of Chico Xavier that is contained in the book Thought and Life. And we, as you all know, are transmitting for Kardec Radio, Spiritism Dissemination, and also Spiritism Network. And Emmanuel, through Chico Xavier, wrote that we structure in the world complicated mechanism of caution and suspicion beyond just preservation, passionately retaining the instinct of possession, and with the instinct of possession, we create reflexes of selfishness and pride, vanity and fear. In this vicious cycle, the human lives generally under the dominion of Kardecian ignorance, seeking to deceive themselves after the cradle, to disabuse themselves beyond the grave, the imprisoned binomial illusion, disillusionment. Let us do not despise the constructive routine. Evolution, however, imposes the acquisition of new habits. Emmanuel. Let's go back a little and commentate about this beautiful instruction. And Emmanuel is telling us that here on earth, when we arrive here, we forget all the commitments we had made in the spiritual world regarding our spiritual evolution. And because of that, as we see ourselves in our families, we start complicating our lives, constructing complicated mechanisms of caution and suspicion, beginning to suspicious doubt our family members, our co-workers, our fellow friends and companions, and we attach ourselves to this physical world with all the material and materialistic possessions that we surround ourselves, retaining the instinct of possession in the matter of the material world. And we forgot and forget all the commitments we have made towards fraternity, solidarity, and union. And with this instinct of possession, we find ourselves creating reflexes of selfishness and pride, vanity and fear. And these four words, selfishness, pride, vanity, and fear is the main characteristic of a materialistic world, a world of sufferings and a world of proofs that we live on. And after this, we construct for ourselves a vicious cycle or circle in which all of us humans used to live generally under the dominion of our own cherished ignorance. And that's why most of us here on earth don't reserve the time to think about the spirituality, and most of us don't want to talk about death and don't want to meditate about life beyond this material world. And that's because most of us reject the thinking of life in the spiritual world because we don't want to reflect in the law that governs the God law that governs the law of cause and effect. And here on earth, we end up seeking to deceive ourselves after the cradle, to disabuse ourselves beyond the grave, as we establish this vicious circle of the binomial illusion, disillusionment, and after the grave, after death, finding ourselves in the spiritual realm, in the real life from which we came to earth and to where we are all going to be someday. We find ourselves in great disillusionment because all we have constructed here on earth regards to the material world, regards to the possessions of assets, material assets, and we forgot to construct in ourselves, in our spirits, all the goodness, all the spirituality that we should have constructed. And that's why most of us arriving in the spiritual realm faces with great pain and great disillusionment. And Emmanuel finally says and wrote to us, let us not despise here on earth the constructive routine, because evolution, however, imposes the acquisition of new habits. And what is Emmanuel referring to? He's telling us that we must change ourselves. We must conduct our elevation in our morals, in our ethics, in our feelings, in our thoughts, and that our acts here on earth must change and reflect those change towards light. And we must change towards fraternity, towards solidarity, towards love, compassion, understanding, union, peace, and all good virtues that characterized a good Christian. And this constructive routine we all may do in our inner self every day. Praying, meditating, reading good books of spirituality, of the Spiritist doctrine, the books of Allan Kardec, the books of Chico Xavier. And after retaining this knowledge, we must put it in action. Put all our hearts and minds into these new ideas, into this spirituality, into this new constructive routine, imposing ourselves the acquisitions of very good new habits, the habits of spirituality, of charity, of fraternity, of forgiveness, of love. So that let's think about it and meditate how wonderful this world would be here on earth if everyone and each one of us could do these new constructive routine in ourselves, influencing others around us in our families, in our workplaces, in our church, and in our social responsibilities. May God bless us all and give us strength to understand the necessity, the urgent necessity that we have to put in place this constructive routine in ourselves so that we can meet the goals of spiritual evolution, not only for ourselves, our families, and our group of fellow companions, but towards all society, all human society, because each cell of family or each cell of work, each cell of religion gathering can be a constructive actor of the change of the human society towards regeneration. So that let's understand that and let's ask God to help us all. Thank you so much for listening to the program To Know Spiritism number 120, and I hope to see you next week with the next program. Have you all a very good night. Bye-bye.